I guarantee that by the end of this video, you will learn about at least one new form of orgasm or even orgasms. Now, you may have already learned about clitoral, G-spot, cervical, or blended orgasms. You may know a lucky few that can come from having their nipples stimulated, and you may already know the powerful release of having a finger up your backside. But there is an entirely different category of orgasm that you need to be aware of if you really want to live an orgasmic life. And if you're someone who's on the path to becoming the best lover you can be, then this video is definitely for you. Learning how to engage with and give these other kinds of orgasms is a huge part of keeping the spark alive in any relationship. Understanding a woman's true orgasmic potential and learning to give her these less well-known orgasmic experiences will put you on a whole nother playing field. Whether she's already a ravenous, insatiable wildcat capable of having a dozen orgasms every time you're together, or if she's not sure that she's ever had an orgasm at all. Trust me on that. In this video, I've decided to do a deep dive on the lesser known orgasmic pleasures. Consider this an advanced look at what an orgasm truly is. I'll be breaking it down into the who, what, where, when, and why. And each element is equally important, so make sure that you stick around until the end. But first, if you aren't already a subscriber, then why not click the button below and never miss a video on making your life more orgasmic ever again. Okay, diving in. Let's start with the who. Who can achieve these orgasms? In just a minute, I'm going to share the types of orgasms that you may never have considered, but before I do, it's important to understand that this type of pleasure is different for every single person. Let's start with the good news first. Anyone can experience a vast array of orgasms. As you know, when it comes to sex and pleasure, we are all special snowflakes. No two of us are alike. Before I even get into the heavy hitting information, I want to make sure that you understand that a part of the fun is figuring out which of the following things apply to you, as well as what applies to each new sexual partner. It's also totally possible for our relationship to pleasure and orgasm to change over time and get so much deeper and better. I have a friend who could only come when she was on top for the entirety of her 20s. And as she entered her 30s, it was like a switch suddenly went off. A whole new world of orgasm was available to her. Our bodies and preferences change over time. And as I go through the following information, just remember that the journey and experimentation is as important as the end result. All right, what is an orgasm anyway? Here's a wild fact. There actually isn't a scientifically agreed upon definition for what an orgasm actually is. Sure, we know specifically what happens in our bodies when we orgasm, but what an orgasm is and how to define it is less clear. And you know what? Personally, I really like that. Sex and pleasure is an entirely personal, subjective thing. And I love that we don't have to put all of our orgasms into neat little boxes. Because there is no uniform definition, we get to decide what an orgasm is. And as we know, there are different types of orgasm. You may already know that men can ejaculate without orgasming and that women can have full body orgasms without any genital touch at all. So, how do we define something like that? Well, my personal favorite definition of orgasm is the pleasurable release of built-up tension. Isn't that just like an easy, obvious definition? It just makes sense. Sure, the simplest and probably most common orgasm is when you're having sex and you build up to either a pleasurable ejaculative release or for her a series of pleasurable muscle contractions. But think about it broader than that. What about a sneeze? Doesn't a sneeze kind of feel like an orgasm? What about a good cry? That's also a buildup of tension followed by a pleasurable release. And don't you feel the same kind of woozy clear-headedness after you've had a really good cry as you do when you have post-nut clarity? That's because it's the same phenomenon in your body. A buildup of tension followed by a pleasurable release. Now, this is important to understand because when we broaden our understanding of orgasm to include these broader definitions, we can start giving more and different orgasms to our partners. There are all sorts of things that we can do to build up pleasurable tension and create a pleasurable release of that tension in each other's lives. And yes, this might feel a little weird. It probably seems like a whole new way of defining orgasms, but it's actually pretty ancient. For now, just know that this form of thinking is not new. And I think that those of us who want to deepen our relationships as well as the level of pleasure that we give and experience could stand to learn a lot from it. So we've broken down the who and the what. Next up is the where. So where can we have an orgasm anyway? The most common answer to this question would be in the genital area. But for a lucky few, and I think potentially all of us, nipples, anus, and a whole bunch of other erogenous zones exist as well. But let's expand on that. I mean, come on, why are we just limiting ourselves to the obvious? What happens when we stop focusing on what we've been taught about orgasm and instead go back to that definition, a pleasurable release of built-up tension? Suddenly we're able to access and give orgasmic energy in so many new and exciting ways. When we look at it in this new and expanded way, we can also experience orgasms of the mind, of the emotions, and of the spirit. Orgasmic energy is life force energy, and it runs through all of us in different ways. Like, have you ever had a great idea and experienced the rush of creativity and explosive fire of thought? Why not consider that a mind orgasm? Or when you've laughed so hard that it becomes completely uncontrollable and tears start to come out of your eyes? For me, that's a laughgasm. What about when you felt so much love for someone that it felt like your chest swelled and opened up? That is also a kind of orgasmic release. Now, do you see why it's so important to prioritize these different kinds of orgasms and the orgasmic flow in your relationship? Because when we give this level of orgasmic diversity to our lovers and even our friends, when we allow ourselves to experience it as well, a whole new world of closeness and pleasure and satisfaction opens up for us. Which takes me to my next point. When? When does orgasm occur? When can and should an orgasm happen? Well, the answer is whenever. And if you want to get philosophical about it, the answer is truly in the now, the present. And the incredible thing about orgasmic flow is that it brings us into the present moment. However we experience it, whether it's sexually or a good cry, an orgasmic release always takes us out of our heads and brings us into our bodies and into the here and the now. It makes time stand still, and it makes us feel like nothing else exists. And this is what makes orgasms so divine. It's also what makes these experiences so deeply connective. When you expand your understanding of what an orgasm is, it allows you to find a greater sense of presence and pleasure in your life. It allows you to share those moments of complete presence with the people who you're close to, and it strengthens your bond to both your loved ones and the bond that you have with yourself. And this leaves us just with the how. How do orgasms happen? Well, I could talk to you about how your muscles spasm, or the rush of chemicals that show up in your body, in your brain, the intricate web of nerve endings that connect your brain to your body, or exactly how to stimulate the various parts of your anatomy. But for the purpose of this video, I have a more useful idea. Orgasmic energy flows when you let it. If you live a life in which you are open to the present moment and you are open to sharing of yourself with others and being vulnerable and feeling things deeply, if you look for opportunities to connect and share pleasure, whether it's with your partners or actually anyone else in your life, because it's not restricted to just erotic relationships, that's how you enhance your orgasmic flow and the orgasmic potential of yourself and your lovers and your partners. You have the power to give yourself the freedom, the permission, and the capacity to experience more orgasmic energy. You have the ability to allow that tension to release in pleasurable ways. You just have to be open to it. My hope is that with this expanded view of what orgasmic energy is, you'll be able to be more mindful of it when you have the opportunity to experience it. And trust me, you will and are experiencing it. And I encourage you to take every chance you get. I promise that you will feel more alive, more connected, and more grounded in yourself. Let the orgasmic energy flow through you, and don't be afraid to share it with others. Go out into the world and live an intentionally orgasmic life. I'm Caitlin B. Thank you for watching. If you have learned something, anything from this video, make sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I promise that you will enjoy more orgasmic flow in your life if you take my advice, and I would love to hear how it all worked for you in the comment section. Thank you very much, and I will see you here next week. Bye.